Recording. Okay, here we go. All right. Welcome back to the Okayest Cook Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whonsetler, joined with co-host Andy Heiser, coming at you remotely because we've got a pretty cool guest lined up tonight. Y'all know me, I don't like to really dilly-dally, so we're going to bring him straight on here. We have Mr. Gunner Emberg joining us tonight. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing all right. It's been a week. Another late recording session here, so we'll get through. We're gonna have a fun time.
Oh yeah.
You're also East Coast though, so at least we're somewhat synced up with the schedule. So.
Yeah. Yep. Up here in Pennsylvania. Nice thing is East Coast. Bad part is when I travel, no one else is on the time I'm on.
Also true.
We're familiar with that.
Yeah.
We're also on like the western side of that East Coast, so like it doesn't make sense where we live. We should be on Central Time. So it's
yeah.
Part
But
of the state is
what time's last light for you these days?
Oh, right now, last light tonight was 5:21.
Jeez. That's rough.
Yeah.
But you're home quick.
But first,
don't say anything.
Yep, home quick, and I don't hunt till last light anymore. I kind of put wash to that for myself. I'm not one of those guys that likes to shoot anything and have to, track at night.
I bet. So yeah, tracking at night. I don't know. I prefer the evening hunt personally. The morning hunt, it's nice. I feel like I'm bumping deer every time I walk in the woods early.
Yeah.
I feel like reason I prefer the night hunt over the morning hunt. It's not even the getting up part. I get excited about it. But then I'm walking in, I just feel like they're everywhere and I'm just bumping everything while I'm out there.
Well, dude, most of the deer on my properties are late night anyways. Like they all show up at the last light.
Yeah. See, I'm actually doing an experiment this year. I have been doing a 9 to 3 sit during the rut basically. And I've seen more deer during that time frame than normally when I hunt a morning or evening.
Really?
Interesting.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Mostly I've had several, 130, 140 inch bucks come in at 1:30, 2 o'clock, everything like that. And I'm just like, oh, what have I been missing here?
Seriously, dude.
Interesting.
Well, dude, that's the book.
Yep.
You gotta play the hand you're dealt.
Yeah.
You gotta play by their rules and do what they demand.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Well, let's dip into food here. Do you guys have any cool, notable meals of the week you want to chat about?
I'll kick some off because I just literally just finished up eating not too long ago, and had a later night tonight. And I leave for Texas coming up here, and just trying to empty out the fridge, right, to get through all the leftovers. And I had one spool of pasta left, and I was like, the cassio de pepe is my very favorite meal to make with that. It's had a day, so that was sounding good, and it was good leftovers clearing out the fridge there. So I went ahead and made that, but I still have a good amount of truffle oil left over from my Italy trip, and so I put a little bit. Normally, I'd just do a regular olive oil with that, but and the Parmesan cheese mixed in. But this was. Threw in some truffle oil and kicked it up a notch.
That's the way to go.
Trying some new things that I like, So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and throw some of that in there, and it was probably the way I'll make it forever until I'm out of truffle oil.
Oh, heck yeah.
But
until you start buying real truffles and shaving those on top.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man, oh man, just the flavor profile. And for those of you that don't like truffles, and I think I've talked about this, I think I've actually said this before. If you don't like truffles, you're just wrong. So I don't know what to tell you. Grow up, Peter Pan. Yeah. It's time to expand your palate. Get involved with some good flavor. So that was mine.
Sick, yeah. Well, Gunnar, I'm going to go next. And Gunnar, when you talk about your meal, I'm going to have you just go straight into your credentials after that. So
Absolutely.
Dude, I did a gig the other night, and it was at the zoo of all places, which was super cool. And we had like dolphins swimming around in the background, and the food they served was top tier. Dude, it was so good. They had this like the appetizer. I'm trying to like see. I was working. I was shooting photos of the event, so I didn't actually get to participate fully with the appetizers and all that running around. So I'm just kind of going off the pictures in my head and then just some memories I have, grabbing some quick bites here and there. But it was like a really sweet duck, like a very sweet duck. I'm not sure what marinades or what was going on, but crazy good duck on top of like a little chunk of brie. It had to have been. And then just like a toasted little baguette type cracker, but it was just like that sweet with that kind of a savory brie, kind of brie's kind of Swedish, right? I mean, it's a sweet cheese, but like, dude, that combination was just crazy good. Yeah, absolutely love that. And
sounds good. Yeah,
want to do a crack on my own at some point here, just like trying to figure out whatever marinade that was, but it was like, it wasn't like sickeningly sweet, like that sweet savory duck combo, but it was like definitely smacked you in the face with how sweet it was. But in a good way.
No, that actually it's very similar to my actually kind of recipe here. It is an appetizer I made last week at one of the hunting camps I was at. So I did it was a dip, but it wasn't really a dip, right? So the bottom layer was a smoked cream cheese that I had done. Then, combined all that together, spread it out thin in this dish. The next layer was a bear neck roast that I had been given.
Oh, dude.
I had taken that out and cut all of the junk out of it, basically. I mean, I cut away a good half of this, but I wanted it really clean meat. I had then seared it and butter basted it for about 5 minutes. Then I put it on the smoker for about an hour and a half. And then I put it in a crock pot with a beef bone broth, and I make my own seasoning as well. It's called Ricochet Rub. There is an ungodly amount of flavor in there. But a little bit of that in there, and then I let that go until it was shreddable. And I made that a couple of days ahead of time, but then for, reheating for service, sauteed that with some butter and some fresh seasoning, put that on top of the cream cheese, and then it was drizzled with a homemade chimichurri that I make.
Oh, my word.
And then to dip was an Asiago bread that I got and cut and cooked into like crostinis, basically.
Bro.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, that was the first time I made that. I didn't know how well it was going to go over either, and I think about every single person told me that was one of the best things they ate. So,
dude, if it tastes like a tenth as good as what it sounds, dude, like you're golden.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a cool way to experience, bear meat too. In a way that's like going to be extremely palatable and fun and full of flavor.
Yeah, well, it's in smoked cream cheese is something that I have been dying to try. I've seen everybody do it. I just haven't tried it yet myself. But like, I think cream cheese definitely falls into one of like the quote unquote cheat codes for cooking.
Yeah,
like cream cheese and bacon and like all the things. So, but it sounds
absolutely. I would agree on that. Yeah,
nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with
it. The cool thing too, like I'm able to get a lot of different wild game too, because like I didn't get to kill a bear yet this year. They're just mysteriously gone from the cornfield somehow. But like with the companies I work for, this kind of goes into like what I do kind of for a living here. So I am a traveling wild game chef. I work for companies like Spartan Forge. I work for Beaumartonic and Timber Ninja. I do work for Whitetail Properties, Military Mobility. I've done work from catering, hunting camps like I did last week to catering, 50-person, like Bo's scouting camps, basically. He puts on, those are, 50-person, lunch and dinner sometimes. With Military Mobility, I served a 4-course meal in the backcountry of Wyoming, like no pavement, no cell phone service, nothing, and I served a mind-blowing 4-course meal up there, but I had prepped for that. I knew what I was doing for that. But I make a lot of these connections, and I get a lot of wild game given to me too, because a lot of guys don't know how to use certain cuts, and they're like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. Do you want it? Show me how to do it or whatever." And so I get a lot of stuff like that, and it's nice because 90% of people I've met cannot cook bear to save their life. They hate bear. Every bear they've had, It's been horrible. And the stuff I give people, they can't even tell it's bear sometimes.
Oh, geez. What do you think they're doing wrong? Are they just like overcooking it? I know you're supposed to cook it to a point, but then like, are they just taking it too far?
It's a lot of overcooking. And that is simply just a fear of trichinosis. And really that's all dependent on, the area the bear's in, but there's no way for us to tell if it has it right off the bat or not.
Yeah.
So to combat that, they say, hey, cook it, well done. You will absolutely kill it. Well, the thing is, at 165, trichinosis dies instantly, right?
Okay.
At 137, trichinosis dies after 2 hours. So I can sous vide bear backstrap and serve it to you medium rare, like I would have, a deer backstrap, and you would have no idea. Mm-hmm. But that completely changes the flavor on that there too. Because what happens is, what a lot of people are going to do is they're going to grill that bear, or they're going to do it in the pan and they're going to sear it. And when that bear hits heat like that, it's going to tense up so much and expel all of the liquid out of it, and it's just going to become shoe leather for the most part. And that's how most people have their bear, is it's tough and it's shoe leathery. Yep.
Dude, game changer right there. Yeah, sous vide for the win. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, here
it's odd to get used to, but it's worth a try, honestly.
And that's interesting because that's a point of contention, I'm assuming, for a lot of people with bear meat in general. It's like not understanding how to cook. We don't have that. We don't have bears here that we can hunt, or at all.
Not huntable bears, no.
They frown upon hunting them out of the zoo. So it's not an animal that we have a whole lot of access to here. But it's always been one that I find there's such a mixed review out there of how to use that meat, and that's a very cool way of explaining it, of understanding just the science behind it. Understand you can't tell if it has trichinosis or not, but just what are you doing to understand when it dies and how it dies, and that's an interesting way of doing that. So you maintain the flavor profile, and then a sous vide is just a magical device. It's a great way if you have to prep a lot of steaks or a lot of something for somebody. Get them to a certain point, and you can finish them to anyone's.
Or when you don't know exactly when other dishes are going to be done. Yeah. So it extends that window of doneness.
Have you found with bear specifically the ability, with a sous vide, you said it has to go for 2 hours to kill it at 137 degrees, but what happens if what does it do to the, because the other side of the sous vide, people oftentimes will leave it in there because there is such thing as too long. You can in fact go too long. But where's that number at on a bear? Is it 4 hours, 10 hours, or how long do you let one go?
I personally have not pushed it because I was too excited to try medium rare bear. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait to 4 hours. I don't want to wait. I'm going to pull this now. I want to try this for dinner. And then I've basically never done it again because my bear stash is dwindling at this point. So,
Well, I mean, the only downside is it's just going to become more tender. It's not necessarily going to ruin anything. It's just, it's going to ruin the mouthfeel because you can probably gum it at that point.
I think pending too, it could extenuate some negative flavors in there, pending how gamey that bear is, or any hidden flavors that could be in there.
I gotcha.
That could come out, if you were to say cook that bear well done, that flavor could come out more just because it's cooking in its own liquid more.
Yeah.
That could be the only thing I could see.
Yep. Yeah, it's never going to extend beyond what you set it to, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's cool.
Yes. Well, you so Gunnar, you've done some work for Harvesting Nature in the past.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Sick.
Yep. I used to. I wrote for them several articles too.
Nice.
I think I was featured in 2 of them, both magazines. I think 2 of them when they were running those as well.
Oh, cool.
It was a great time writing for them too. I got so busy that it was essentially I took on being executive chef at a full-time or a Upland Lodge in Kansas, and I just could not I did not have a spare minute to begin or even contemplate writing any more articles. So I was like, hey, I told Adam, I was like, dude, I got to take a little break. Like, I can't even keep up with myself here.
Oh, man, yeah. So. Well, it's important to say no from time to time.
Yep.
But there's some rad dudes. We absolutely love what they've got going on. Justin's super cool. Adam's hilarious and awesome. And, I'm dying to get to one of their camps at some point. Like the big camp or the goose camp would be super cool. But dude, literally today they dropped a podcast episode all about like the future of food. Yes. And it was a beautiful episode. Like I absolutely love all the information in that episode, and we will 100% link it down below. Ironically, like we're on the same wavelength, I think, as Harvesting Nature, because like this isn't the first time that we've had like synchronized topics, but that's exactly what we were chatting to Gunnar about on Instagram. Is like where food is going, and just basically the future of food. So thoughts on the topic, and here Harvesting Nature puts out their episode literally the same day we're recording here.
I know,
but they've got their voices and we've got our voices, so we're going to continue forth. And let's just have a little chat about I guess the food revolution, or Gunnar, I'll let you take it away. This is your show now, so lead us, sir.
How do I put it? So part of all of the knowledge that I have on this food revolution and kind of some of the deeper connections I'm able to make with a lot of this stuff, I spent 5 years in the Navy as a medic. And during that time, naturally I had gotten to, fitness and everything, but I took it upon myself to really research nutrition.
Okay.
And really research, learn how to read nutrition labels, everything like that. Like really dive down some of the rabbit holes of metabolic processes and different type of diets. Like I was doing ketogenic diet back before it was even a thing, basically. I was doing this in, 2012, 13, 14, when, it was still a baby in its growing stage at that point, right? So fast forward to today, all of that kind of knowledge, I'm now seeing more and more people kind of rise up. And what I tend to see from that is a lot of homesteading nowadays, right? Like, no matter how many times I close and open my Instagram, when I'm scrolling, there's a homesteader on there somewhere, right?
Yep.
Granted, it's just, happens to be the algorithm or whatever it may be, but you can't get away from it. You happen to see somebody in the store that owns chickens. Everybody, this is happening more and more and more.
Yeah. And
I believe that is kind of the rabbit hole to a lot of people kind of waking up to what is going on currently with all the food. There's so many chemicals, so many dyes. There's so many studies out there that are showing that, hey, these dyes are causing behavioral issues in children. These preservatives are actually causing, gastrointestinal issues in humans and everything like that. And I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of rabbit holes you can go down there. It's, that's a whole nother series of podcasts in itself, basically. But a lot of people are starting to try to break away from that right now. And what I'm seeing is a resurgence of not only homesteading, but hunters and homesteading being combined, almost more, going back to that lifestyle of the 1800s, where, Little House on the Prairie type of deal, the settlers that founded the West and everything. A lot of people are going back to that right now, and I'm excited to see how far we take it as a country.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. It's a hard topic to swallow. We need Colton here. Yeah. Colton's our resident conspiracy theorist.
The one guy. It's like I can hear him and it's this is exactly his world.
I mean, to be honest, like part of me thinks like we're definitely flirting with that line. Like it's hard to tell like fact from fiction sometimes. But you're not wrong. It's like 100%. Like you compare our generation to our parents' generation to our grandparents' generation, and something is going on. Like we're not the humans we were back. When my grandpa, like, he was just like, I mean, he's kicking around like nothing's going on, and he's like pushing 90 something. And I don't think I'm gonna make it that long. It's right. My diet, my lifestyle, technology is putting a hamper on things. The convenience the cost of convenience is a lot higher than I think we think it is.
Yep.
And like my grandpa, like my other grandpa, he grew up on a farm, and like my dad grew up on that farm, and like they're tough individuals, and we're not that people. So it's got to be, like I said, that convenience, the grocery store food, the processed stuff that's going to last forever on your shelf.
Yep.
So,
I
think there's something to it.
You can even kind of look at some studies that, they date back to, really starting in the 70s and the 80s, but, more so they can taper backwards. But really when we started introducing more and more processed foods into the American diet, but even back then, you would look and they would be whole ingredients. They wouldn't have the preservatives, the chemicals, and stuff like that. I believe it was since the year 2000, over 900 different chemicals have been allowed into the food systems as whatever it is, right? Chemicals that you cannot find in nature, right? That they may have to extract from a plant and scrub with 14 different, solvents and do chemical reactions to make this chemical so that they can say it's natural, right? Oh man, I just lost my train of thought on that a little bit there.
Well, probably because you use 9,000 chemicals.
It's all the chemicals. It is a staggering number. But so that is one of the biggest differences is you look back at the 70s and 80s, the ingredients on Pringles were potatoes, oil, and salt, I believe, and maybe a little bit of water in there too for a binding, right? You look nowadays, you can't even read half of what is in that ingredient, right? And that is the biggest change in what is affecting our lives, essentially, right?
I think so, yeah.
And I think like this, we touched on this in a couple of different episodes before about just following back the money about why some of these things are in those foods. Like, why are there 9,000 chemicals? Well, one of the things, like we were in this kind of double-edged sword in this country, in my opinion, of like, in order to successfully feed 400 million people, we have to make food last as long as it possibly can. And thus, science does what science does, and it goes and looks things up to come up with ways. Well, if we put a little bit of this in there, it lasts a little longer. And the little bit of this that we put in there are these chemicals that they turn into. And, there are some things, I mean, keep in mind, guys, we if you have a headache and you can take a Aleve or Advil or whatever your pain reliever of choice. And that's technically chemicals. There are good things out there. But when you start looking at like, well, should a box of Cheerios really last 3 years? Like, should we have to stop for a second and ask ourselves, well, why? Or how long is long enough? I just threw away a practical science experiment of pickled like with pickles, like pickles, right? In my from a charcuterie board from a housewarming party. Well, I bought this house in July, so
those pickles are still good. Come on,
pickles are probably fine, right? But like you start looking at like what's in it, it's like, well, some things should last like long enough. It was just one of those things that got me thinking about like how long should some of this stuff last? Like what's normal and what should be allowed beyond normal without that stuff. And then looking at those types of things. And the hard part is that like if you've spent some time to do some research on like what's in those chemicals and what's really terrible for you and what's not, but there's a huge portion of that 400 million population that I just mentioned that doesn't do that research or doesn't have the ability to do that research. So then they're
just doesn't care.
Like we've created these departments to trust that these things are good for the greater American people, but you start looking back at the money and it's like, well, it seems like it's just good for the people who make the food. Food.
Well, you say air quotes good for the American people. I mean, are we talking like good health? Long-term health benefits or like good we're feeding people? There's there's always going to be hungry people, but like there's less hungry people maybe because this food is more stable and we can get it to people and it's going to last. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too kind of goes with like what you were saying with the cost of convenience. And, for us as humans, the cost of convenience is, hey, it costs us more to go buy that can of Pringles off the shelf, But on the manufacturer's side, if they can just go buy a couple chemicals to dump in the vat and out comes Pringles, they're going to do that rather than paying the farmer, paying for trucking, paying to wash and peel 100%. And boil and process and do all of that too. So I think it's, kind of it's just built into our economic system of that's how it's going to go. And there really isn't a change unless you reset everything, which is just impossible to do at this point, you know?
I think so,
unless it's people take it upon themselves to choose the things that they're going to reset on, and that's the I guess the kind of the goal behind a lot of the homesteading, and like the reason why Colton bought 5 chickens that now has turned into 30 somehow. But like, you know, people started taking back a little bit of control. I mean, that's how I got into hunting. You know, pulling this back to wild game was 100%. During the pandemic, it kind of hit me like how hooked to the system I was. And I personally feel that if, you know, in an apocalyptic situation, wild game is going to be the first thing that eventually will go. Like eventually there's not going to be enough of that to last to be sustainable. But at the end of the day, it was like one of those things where like, this is a skill set. And like, I need to know where my stuff comes from. What can I control? And protein source is something that I can learn how to hunt, you know? And at this point, like I said, I pride myself in how long I've gone without purchasing red meat from a store. You know, I'm not afraid of a burger. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like a sadist here about all this stuff. I would go eat a good burger, but I'm just saying like, as far as like the food that I prepare for myself throughout the week, I mean, I'm almost strictly at this point. Like I was telling Chris the other day, like I had a 3 or 4 day stint there where every single thing I ate, the protein was provided by my bow, or Colton's chickens, you know,
that's awesome,
you know, and that's pretty cool to be able to say and take back a little bit of that control. And I hope people like can do that in their own way, whether that's starting a little garden, couple like, you know, even start with the peppers that you're growing in your backyard or whatever it is that you decided to try. Like getting a better understanding of what real is.
Right.
Yeah, that was a big part of the Harvesting Nature podcast was just, I mean, overall health benefits. But also, like I said, you know where that steak has been, and you know how long it's been there. So
for sure.
Big factors there that mean a lot. They should mean a lot.
Well, and I think.
Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
One kind of analogy I heard, it's a semi-dumb analogy, but man, does it work. It's a comic book analogy, right?
Yes. Let's go.
And if you guys know your comic book history at all, you've heard of Wolverine, right? He's a guy, he has adamantium claws, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Well, part of that, supposedly his healing factor was significantly more increased before he had that metal put in him. That metal was poisoning his body, right? So now he still has a healing factor. He heals fast, but before he used to be able to heal instantly, right? A lot of that kind of mindset is getting into a lot of people recently with our food of, hey, everything we're trying to put into us right now might be not the best for us. What, you know, and a lot of people are, I mean, I see it myself too. Like I heal significantly faster. I don't have aches and pains, you know, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and kind of benefits that people can see, whether it's placebo or effect or not, is, you know, yet to be told. But I think the science is there, and it's really, I mean, once I cut out a lot of processed stuff, I mean, people see the weight just fall off of them because their body isn't retaining all of that water and all of that salt to make them hold on to all of that stuff. Or like even soda, right? Soda isn't bad just because it has a lot of sugar in it. The one chemical that's in soda, I forget the exact one. It's been a little bit since I actually learned this, but that chemical goes in and it shuts down a metabolic pathway in your body for the type of sugar that is in that soda, and it strictly makes it get turned into fat and not be able to turn into blood sugar and processed out by your liver and kidneys.
Jeez.
Yep. That is why soda is actually bad. And that is the crazy thing of like, okay, well, if it's that bad, then is diet soda, which is horrible for you, better or not? Because we know which is which at this point.
Yeah.
The hard thing, we live in a world where sometimes eating this stuff is unavoidable. That's the bad part right now. We can't ever escape any and all of it.
And again, it's like it's not. And I would also say like most things in moderation. Are okay. You know, like as long as it has an overarching you know, that's the thing. That's like, look, if you're like, I mean, I'm super pumped about my upcoming trip, but basically when I'm out in Texas hunting, I live on Monster and a lot of just Oreo rolls from the gas station. I mean, we don't eat well there while we're out trying to get the things that make us eat well. Which is kind of funny, ironic, if you will. But again, it's one of those things where but if it becomes that your majority of your diet is coming from these things that are overly processed and have more than just basic food food in them, then this is one of my so one of the pillars of this podcast has to do with fitness and nutrition, and that usually ends up being something that I end up talking a lot about. But one of my favorite, he's a CrossFit coach and just a personal trainer and a nutritionist. Ben Bergeron always says, and he goes, "Eat real food."
Yes,
that's it. When in doubt, eat real food. And if you just do that most of the time, you'll probably feel a hell of a lot better, because a lot of to your point, a lot of that inflammation, the things that make you feel crappy have to do with these chemicals that are involved with this. And if you just get that out of your system, it's amazing how much better you'll feel. And then even then when it comes in from time to time, I mean, here's the thing, I don't drink Monsters and eat the cookies and do all the crap like I do most of the time. Right. And while it's fine when I'm there, trust me, the week after I get back, I have this hangover effect of back in my system. And it's just amazing. I always challenge people, don't cut all of it out, but cut one of the things out. Take something that you're awfully addicted to that's chemically charged and pull that out for 30 days and just see how you feel. And what you'll find is find I love bread. I love pasta. Gluten intolerance is everybody's actually a little bit gluten has a gluten intolerance. It's not something you're supposed to have, but it has to do with how fucked our wheat is here compared to what it used to be. Not the fact that, but those aren't things that I tend to have a lot of, that I refuse to take out of my diet because I enjoy them. And I also don't have a negative effect. I have taken out of my diet for 30 days and have reintroduced it. And it doesn't affect me that poorly, but there are other things that you reintroduce. If I drink soda, I just feel like dog shit for a while. I mean, it's just the one of all the little things. I like candy over drinking pops, but especially things like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and things like those sodas, those dark sodas, for whatever reason, those really affect me. But that by taking them out. So I always challenge people, if you're not feeling great, take one of those things out and see how you feel and find out which ones are really affecting you.
Yep, absolutely. And it's funny, I tell people the same thing too. Take one thing that you're really set on. A lot of people, it's pop or dessert or candy or something, and I'm like, just try to switch it to something healthier for a little bit. And then once you're good with it, switch it to something even healthier, right? And I was like, take your meals and try to design them where you're only shopping on the outside of the store for the most part. You know what I mean?
Sir, we talk about
that. And I was like, just do that switch for 90 days. And then we can talk about how to actually implement macronutrients into your diet and how to follow them and do all of that.
Yeah. Dude, I'm having flashbacks to our Caitlin Green episode.
Funny too. I do want to touch on I want to touch on bread really quick too, just because you did too. Gluten. I see the same thing. Gluten intolerance over here is basically everyone almost has it, right? And what I see from the research that I do is it's often associated with the glyphosate that's coming through via the pesticides and everything, right? But B, it's also the folic acid that we enrich our grains with over here too.
Yeah.
You go over to Italy, they don't do that shit.
Don't get me going.
Yes. And funny enough too, I need to do more research into this. I heard this recently too. If you make a sourdough bread and you actually do a 24-hour ferment in it, as in you let it proof overnight in the fridge or something like that, supposedly it will denature the gluten protein in there, and that will not trigger any gluten response from even celiac.
Interesting.
But I don't know how practical that is, because naturally there's going to be flour on the outside of it. You're not going to be, it's not all of that is going to get taken out of there. But I've heard that a lot of people are finding success in actually having a longer ferment on their sourdough, and gluten intolerant people can eat it.
Yeah, no, my trip to Italy was eye-opening for a lot of reasons. But just a food standpoint. I ate like a complete asshole the entire time, and with pasta and wine and legitimately no hangovers, legitimately did not feel like what you feel like after you've had a bottle of wine and all the pasta at a nice restaurant and a nice Italian restaurant here in the States. Like if you can go to a place that has some way of getting old world flour, getting the flour from, if they import it in or whatever, it is a game changer when it comes to if you have any sort of issues with gluten. Like it's one of those things where, I was there with people who are gluten free and I watched them eat pasta the entire trip with no issues.
Yeah.
So,
and that is actually the sole reason why I only buy organic flour at this point. We're actually looking at getting a mill to actually start milling our own flour, but that's
super cool.
Baking with fresh flour is a whole different ballgame. But like I hand make all my pasta, we hand make all our bread. Like we don't buy that shit from the store anymore, just because of that reason.
Well, it's not just flour. Like I saw some cool stats on Instagram that I have not fact checked. So everyone dig in, do your own research. But I saw this post on Instagram. I forget where. I was telling Andy before we hit record that like I wish I would have saved it somewhere because I want these stats. But like apparently like soy, like plants, most plants don't generate their own minerals. They get those minerals from the soil, and that soil gets depleted fast. I mean, like within 6 years, you can deplete soil, and most farmers are incentivized by money, to just make as much as they possibly can per acre. So they're not necessarily like replenishing the soil with proper minerals and doing all the things they should be doing. All they're doing is just like putting in fertilizer to help plants grow, just to get the most bushels, the most tons per acre. And so our plants today are just not giving us mineral wise what we used to get probably 100 years ago or whenever our soils were depleted. So just the American diet is kind of screwed that way because of economics. But we're just, like it's not just bread. It's literally all vegetables here in America that are grown improperly.
That is the bad part. And there's 91 essential minerals basically that your body needs. And you go, if you were over in Italy, it's funny. I know an old Italian woman that she was over visiting the States. We took her to a local farmer's market. She wouldn't buy any of the fruit and any of the vegetables, right? And I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, there's no flies on any of it.
Oh, geez.
She wouldn't buy it because the flies weren't attracted to it. So she's like, why would you want to eat that if you're not even a bug will eat that?
Dude. That reminds me of another
eye-opening.
That reminds me of another Instagram post I saw. I need like a screen recorder on when I'm perusing. Yeah, the worm farm. Did I show you that?
Worms, the two things of cauliflower and like the organic ones. Like the worms are like, no, go to the organic one, and then they like reluctantly ate the non-organic one. I was like, oh my god.
I could the pesticides and the whatever fertilizers and all the crap to make it grow faster, bigger, better. Yeah.
Yep.
It's killing us.
You're finding, a lot of everything over here is demineralized because we're just, and one of the huge problems is that most farmers in the country do till all of the farms, which just burns off nutrients at an excessive rate via the sunlight, So there's even more mineral and nutrient loss than they plant. So really the vegetables are kind of there. They give a little bit of micronutrients, but they're just there for macronutrients via basically your carbohydrates, which I have a whole theory on carbohydrates, and that is a whole wild thing to get into at some point. But
yes, well, I don't know where you want to take this next. We can get into carbs, or I'm kind of curious about like
dirty of it.
Give us the quick and dirty.
The quick and dirty of it is that carbohydrates are the world's first man-made drug.
Okay.
Right. Carbohydrates do not grow in the wild aside from a couple tubers and a couple fruits. Right. When you ingest carbohydrates, you have a dopamine response in your body, and that is very, very addictive, right? A lot of people, when they go ketogenic diet for a while, they have what they call the keto flu, right? Your body is detoxing from the amount of dopamine it's receiving daily. So, in essence, bread, pasta, rice, all of that stuff was agriculturally made and refined to be a carbohydrate, which is the world's first drug for the most part.
Jeez.
Yeah, it can get really deep in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's a double-edged sword a little bit. I mean, again, coming from my fitness background, how the carbs are utilized to grow bigger humans.
Yeah.
and also like I have a lot of conversations about, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of religion, but like a lot of things are created about food and religion, and a lot of things were created for the overall growth and the spread of the human species. And so while I hear what you're saying there, that you're correct, that is a refined thing that was built to feed the masses, especially, think about how cush and easy our lives are. Even for people who are in like people who have all like the worst off are still. I'm not this goes like, just put yourself back in you don't have to go back that far, but I mean, if you go back to like the 15 and like 1400s, like how, like there's nothing to fucking eat. Like and we came from like, you couldn't hunt the thing. That's the king's deer. So you can't take that. So here's your porridge and this thing of bread. Figure out your life. Flour and
have fun living.
Will make food for you, but it's really just the feeling of being full, so you survive.
It's all about kind of adapting to your environment too. It's when we're able to, naturally, I still eat carbs all the freaking time, basically. But there's times where, like, hey, if I'm on a backcountry hunt in Canada, my carbs are going to be limited because they're not going to keep very well up there for me, So it's all adapting anymore for me too, of kind of what my environment gives me. And anymore, most everyone's life is adapted well enough where, you can have that big plate of pasta anytime you want now,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too close to another one of our no topics of politics.
Oh boy!
But where do you think food is heading here in the next few years, or hopefully not sooner, but maybe?
I would like to see it head the way I would like it to. And, the next administration seemingly seems to be on board with that, but we will see what happens there.
Well said.
Yes, that is a dangerous game to play at such a high level when it has been the way it has been for years and years and years.
It's a well-oiled machine. It's going to be hard to change it.
Stop it.
It's one of those, why fix it unless it's broke? Well, what if it was built broke to begin with? How do you undo it then? Yeah.
Right.
We'll see what happens. We will see what sticks. We'll see what kind of shapes. I think that the next 4 years could shape the food future of America for the better or for the worse, given the powers that be to come, into play, however that turns out, basically. But I think we're in an exciting time where not only is the government kind of getting called out or maybe going to be on board with change, the American people are very much on board with it now too.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah. We're starting to see some of these, the cons.
Practical things that can like people can use for this, especially whether you're cooking or just in general, like how you find your food. Like you said earlier, it's another thing that Ben Bertrand preaches, like stay to the outside of the grocery store. If you stay on the outside, you're probably doing okay. The inside's a trap. Try not to look around when you're in the checkout line. But some other common things that people can do, like first of all, not everyone has access to organic food, depending on where they are. But when you do, there's a price difference to organic. I think one of the things that you can find is, I think that there's also a misconception that this stuff is like grossly more expensive. Sometimes it can be, because it's like, if it's a hard to get item and you want it to be organic and it's not strawberry season, well, that means those strawberries that are organic are coming from somewhere. They're harder to acquire, thus the cost is higher. But I mean, guys, I was just thinking about, what did I just buy the other day? Organic. I think it was a potato. The cost difference was not that different in there. One of the things I think, we talk, you're as a chef, I know you have to deal with this a lot more about what's in season, and is there a general thing to look for? Or is that something or what are some the common things that people can do when they go to the grocery store to try to purchase items that maybe are less full of these chemicals?
I naturally, I would say buy organic when possible if you're able to afford it. If you're not a big deal, right? Just start to back off on the refine, the processed stuff, and incorporate some of these better vegetables, fruits, everything like that into your life. You will see your health kind of change for the better there. But if you can afford to get organic and get top notch, absolutely go for it. You're reaching NBA, NFL levels there. If you can't, you're still getting ready for the draft, basically. You're well on your way there. One of my favorite tips, right, is find yourself a seasonal vegetable chart, seasonal fruit chart, whatever you want to find. Just Google it. There is no specific one out there. And go to your local farmers markets. Buy in bulk if you can, because A, they're not spraying with pesticides for the most part, because you have to have an applicator license for that. B, it's going to be pretty nutrient dense stuff because they're growing in their backyard soil, right? And C, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than it is in grocery store. But learn to process that food in a way where you can store it and enjoy it all year round. Yeah. Whether that's taking squash and pre-cooking it, mashing it, and freezing it, and just pulling it out and having that whenever you want to tomatoes that you end up going through a canning process to, hey, it's January, I want tomato sauce. Oh, just pull out these canned tomatoes, from my fresh tomatoes I had this summer, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That is a huge step there too, is learning kind of how to process all of the food and start to make it yourself. Mm-hmm. That will just start you down a path of, hey, okay, what if I started making my own cheese? How hard is that? Oh my gosh, it's lemon juice or vinegar and milk that you heat up to a certain temperature, and that's it. It's super simple. Anytime I make lasagna now, I make my ricotta the same day. It's stuff like that.
Ricotta's easy. I want to learn how to make blue cheese. That's my jam, but that's a little scarier at home.
Yeah, some of the aged cheeses I have not gotten into yet. No. I want to, but I want to have an actual good. Essentially, whenever we get a new house, I plan on building a partially underground greenhouse that I will build a root cellar kind of off of, so it's not getting warmed at all, but it's down into that basically too, so it's nice and secure for me.
Yeah,
and that I think you're touching on like we said it earlier, just to take the one thing out of your diet and then to replace something a little healthier. And this is the next thing. Start going to the farmer's market. Just start there. One of the things I think is also different about the European culture, more so than Western cultures, is that we oftentimes they go to the store every day. It's a part of going down to the market and getting what they're going to cook for that day or two. It's not where here I'm guilty of this as well. I go to the store on Sunday and then I get everything for the next week or two, and then that's what I have, right? But getting used to going to the farmer's market is part of your Saturday routine. And then once you start having a lot of the stuff, and that's when you're like, well, how hard is canning? Well, canning sounds like hard stuff if you're not already buying vegetables yet from the grocery store. That's a big leap. But this is an iterative process. And I think that's one thing to kind of think about of the gateway drug is to just stay to the outside of the grocery store, then move yourself into the organic section, then maybe hit up the farmer's market every now and then Chris and Colton can nerd out about canning stuff. They can talk to us about that,
I think another good challenge.
The peaches, Chris, we bought all those peaches the peach from the peach truck or whatever. I love peaches, but I'm not gonna eat a whole freaking box of them. So the very first thing we did, Chris literally over the phone told me how to blanch peaches so I could peel them up and save it. And I've got all but
I've still got a ton in my freezer.
Pounds of them frozen.
So
I can pull them out at a sheet at a time when I want to do something with peaches. So I think it's that.
Let me ask you a question, right? Because I believe we hit the same peach truck too, because it stops in Pittsburgh over here, right? They're delicious, right? They're awesome. You go to a store, you bite into a peach, it sucks, right?
Yeah, so bad.
So if a lot of people are kind of on the fence and starting this food journey, here is a little fact that a lot of people don't know, right? You go over the year's shelf in that store and you look at those apples. On average, they are 14 months old.
What?
They have been in storage. They have been treated with gas to be preserved. Potatoes can be years old, up to 5 years old. Onions can be up to 5 years old. Yep.
No.
It insane how we treat our food here. Dude. I will tell, like, most of our food is not. It is banned in other countries because we do so much shit to it.
I mean, I believe that. You know, I see the reels on Instagram. Again, I do your research. What do you believe? What do you don't believe? But yeah, 100%. Like, just any diet that's not American.
Yeah. I knew stuff on the shelf was older than people thought.
Yeah, the apple thing and the onion thing for being up to 5 years is like, I'm sorry, but those extended periods of storage also denutrientize and demineralize those vegetables and fruits there too. So by the time you actually get them, what are you actually eating at this point? You know, compared to what it was when it was picked off the tree.
The gas residue.
But that is why those peaches taste so damn good. Is because I don't know the exact age on peaches in the store, but they could be a year old for all I know. You know.
Yeah.
Jeez.
All the more reason just to do it yourself. Like, it doesn't take much to grow a tomato plant. Like, if you've got a window.
That's why I love farmers markets.
Yeah.
I love farmers markets because, hey, even, you know, you can walk up and get a sourdough loaf for $1 or $2 sometimes, you know, and that bread is going to be healthier than anything you're going to go buy in the store, even if it was made with non-organic flour, even if it was made with just Dollar General AP flour, it's better than anything on the shelf in that store.
I mean, if nothing else, I would say visit the farmers market just to support your local farmers, your local growers.
Yep. Yeah.
Instead of the big box
and for the
people.
Folks that live in big cities too. I mean, there's inner city markets everywhere. There's famous markets all over, major cities and stuff that like chefs know of and dream of going to find ingredients that we can't get places, you know? Yeah. So these are all over. I mean, often I see a lot of farmers markets in cities more than I see them in rural towns half the time too, you know?
We have I mean, here in Indianapolis, we have a couple of really great options.
Mm-hmm.
But also too, like, I think people are like it's afraid of like, oh, well, I have to go at this certain time. Or they're just like, I'm not sure how to like shop at one. Like, the other side of this too is just like anything else that you do that's new. You just haven't done it yet. Just, I mean, again, like, I can't encourage people enough to, like, as Chris was saying, not only to support the local farmers, but like it's a chance to get out and walk around and see. I mean, if it's at the farmer's market, for those of you who aren't sure what's in season, it probably is in season. If it's
not in season, it's not going to be at the farmer's market.
Won't be there. No, man, that's a real eye opener. And, you know, the other thing too, like, you can't fault grocery stores for trying to maximize their meals on their stuff on things like this. But like the pre-prepped fruit and the pre-prepped stuff that you see there, please note that's the stuff that's going bad, that they take off the shelf, cut all the uglies away and put it into those things. Oftentimes treating it with even more chemicals to make it look pretty, so that when you go to there and you say, "Ooh, I'm going to be healthy today," and buy this cup of fruit, half that apple you're eating was rotten. That's why they used the other half to make your little bowl there. So mine too, friends. That's how that process works. And it sucks because, like, again, it goes back to an economic situation. Like, you know, the farmers are incentivized incorrectly. The produce, the manufacturer, the FDA is now created a situation there where it's like they're making rules now that are inside. They're incentivized for the wrong reasons. And so this is back to, like, at the end of the day, I mean, this is something that this is native to all of us, chefs or cooks or hunters. That, like, take some responsibility for yourself and what you're doing. You know, it's I can't encourage people enough to just do a little bit of research. If you're looking at the back of the things that you're eating all the time and there's, you know, words that you can't read, like, maybe let's go find a different version of that. Like, I love myself a good, like bar. So granola bar or whatever, you know, those things. There's some really good options out there that are relatively healthy, that are, like, you know, RX bars are 9 ingredients. That's what they are. And, you know, you know what, if you let one sit in your pantry for longer than a month, they get really hard and gross and they're hard to eat because it's real food. But you can also, like, replace some of this crap with, like, better versions of those same things, or go one step further and just, you know, maybe make yourself some overnight oats in the little jars where you can take one single serving and it's essentially the exact same macronutrient setup, if not better, with better ingredients. You're actually getting those micronutrients at a higher rate than you are in this overly processed thing.
And I would venture to say that most of the food you're eating is really not that hard to make. My kids are obsessed with mac and cheese. Yeah, they prefer the blue box, but like, let's start making our own mac and cheese. Again, stick to the perimeter. Like, it's really not that hard. Like, making granola bars are really not that hard.
Right.
And like I said, you've got control over what's inside of it at that point. You have control over the type of ingredient that's inside of it, where the ingredient came from. Just do it yourself. Start small.
I think the biggest takeaway so far about this conversation, it's not stop doing something, it's replace it with something else. Substitute, not stop. It's substitute what you were doing, because you were after that thing for a reason, whether it was for food, nutrition, or dopamine hits, whatever. Like, look, I love candy. I love pie. Like, Chris and I are pie guys. We've talked about this quite often. But like, but by making the pie, even if it's just gonna like, that pie that I like, if I get a peanut butter pie from my mom, which I will get for my birthday, because I get one every year. That pie is gonna expire, faster than the one that if I go buy a slice of peanut butter pie from the gas station that's 78% chemicals, not food. I mean, that's that thing will withstand a nuclear war. That slice of pie. But those are the things, again, like, it's just replace, like, substitute. Don't worry so much about like stopping necessarily, but like, all right, if you like something sweet, go buy some organic fruit, whatever in the organic fruit side. Eat as much of it as you want.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
And you can have as many carrots as you possibly can eat. If you're munchy, carrots are not the same as potato chips. I promise you, they're not. But you can take some sweet potatoes, cut them, dice them up, throw them in an air fryer, throw some salt on those bad boys, and it'll get you there, and you can have as much of them as you want. Eat as many as you like.
There you go.
Exactly, man. I mean, it is crazy like that. It's funny too, like, even from a fitness standpoint too, right? Like, so I had a big powerlifting background too, strongman stuff. Like, I mean, I did the years and years of chicken and rice and chicken and broccoli and protein shakes and every other freaking supplement you can possibly freaking imagine. And now, right, I tried it again last year. I tried going high protein with, more synthetic proteins again. My body wouldn't take it anymore because I've been clean of so much processed stuff for so long. So I had to do it the old-fashioned way and just eat a rotisserie chicken every half hour, basically. Rotisserie chicken.
Choice.
Yeah.
Take the skin off. Try to help yourself a little bit, but as much as you want.
Yeah, but it's crazy. Like, your body will actually start to kind of reject some of this stuff. And like you were saying too, it's so easy to make mac and cheese. Vinegar is 4 ingredients. Mustard, right? It is mustard seed, vinegar, water, and salt. That's it. And then all it is time and temperature and a blender after that. And you have homemade delicious mustard that, hey, if you do it with white wine, you have Dijon. If you do it with this grain, you have a spicy brown. If you do it not fully blended, you can call it stone ground because you didn't grind it with a stone, but it's not fully, pureed, But it's like, that is so much better than that yellow bottle you're going to buy on the shelf because it has how many preservatives to make it be shelf stable for 3 or 4 years.
It might take you a few rounds, but it's better.
Yep.
I think I finally, I'm getting close to being okay at making mayonnaise. I've tried that a few times, and it's all right. We're getting there.
There's multiple.
That's one of the things we have to ask ourselves is, how long should this stuff last? Like, really? Like, I mean, how long do you mean, buy a smaller amount? Like, the other part of this is just it's the economic problem of this. We all go to, if you have a Costco membership, you're like, you're goaded into buying the biggest version of the ketchup bottle that's there.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of those things where it's like, well, the convenience of not having to go buy ketchup every other week. I get it.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it makes sense why that is. But that's the one thing. A couple of takeaways from this episode so far is like substitution or replacing. But then also just ask yourself, how long should this shit actually last? What is too much? Look, if you're in an economic situation where you're gonna buy ketchup, and I don't want to have to think about ketchup for a year. I get it, and I know
exactly.
But there's other choices that you can make along the way too. That's like, well, like, again, like if you're going to buy chips, like potatoes aren't actually, they're cheaper. That one-time purchase of an air fryer too. And if you slice there's so many different ways you can chop up a potato to make it taste slightly different, but just throw a little bit of salt on that bad boy, and you've got yourself even might be a 5-year-old potato apparently.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's such a better version than the preservatives that made that chip bag last as long as it's going to last.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And one of the things too, like something to note too, when we make a lot of these fresh foods, they're not designed to be stored for very long, right? So what can we do to help them be designed to be stored long? And a lot of people are like, oh, I can pasteurize it by cooking it to this temperature. Okay, cool, yeah. Even still, there's no guarantee you did that correctly. You know what I mean? There's so many faults in that. It's a very hard process to get to. But something we can do is ferment, right? If you get your homemade mayo down to a science, look up how to ferment mayo, and you will make it last 3 months on the shelf.
Oh, geez.
Right? And so that's how you solve that problem of, I don't want to have to go get mayo every week, shit, I just made a big batch of it at home and I fermented it. Now it lasts me 3 months. Oh, man, that's so much easier than trying to make this every week for my family. You can do the same with ketchup and all of that kind of stuff too. Hot sauces. Fermentation is the key to preserving food for longer periods of time. And fermented foods are also super good for your gut health too. So
it just adds a complex
3 months is
flavor.
It's a great amount of time. Does it have to be 5 years?
Right. Yeah. Yep. If I don't use it in 3 months, clearly I don't eat enough of it to make however much I did.
Yes. Or to buy that gigantic vessel. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Come on. Yes. Well, dude, we are coming up on time. It's been such a fast, awesome conversation. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying conversation, but it's 100% something we all need to think about. I'll be honest, I'm a little worried. I don't want to go into politics much more than we have already, but like I'm a little worried to have a businessman running the show. Only because of what we've talked about, just economics kind of fueling the wrong side of the coin when it comes to food and food production and food sustainability.
Yep. It is.
We're sacrificing too much, I think, by keeping money in the wrong pockets. That's all.
There's a fine line to tread here in the next couple of years, and we're going to see how well they can do that. Yeah, basically.
So do some research, figure out how to do some of this stuff on your own, and you'll not regret it.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
Well, Gunnar, tell us where we can find more of you. I mean, I know you're on Instagram, so you are. I'll pull it up here. You are the Hungry Huntsman, correct? With a couple periods in here. It's in the show notes. If you're not watching, look below. We'll tag you there. Where else can we find you, Gunnar?
On Facebook as a Hungry Huntsman as well. Those are kind of the only two I'm on right now.
Okay.
Well, the stuff in the works. Should be having the cookbook come out with Sport and Forge here soon.
No way. Let's do it.
Potentially going to be doing some video stuff with that. And there's a lot of stuff in terms of, I'm waiting to kind of get my seasoning into mass production at this point to build my website to actually have a place to house it and everything like that. So we're in the construction phase of everything right now. So Facebook and Instagram, that's mainly what we have right now.
Nice.
You can find several of the articles that I've wrote for Harvesting Nature, though, too. They're all hosted on hosted on their website over there, too.
Yeah.
So
just type Gunner, right? They'll pop right up.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Gunner over there.
Sweet.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think I have. I wrote for them for a good bit, so there should be quite a bit on there. A lot of kind of Americanized recipe. And so Justin and Adam, they go pretty hard on some of the techniques that they use.
They go hard.
Yeah. They go pretty funky with a lot of stuff. And while I do some of that stuff at home, I don't put that stuff out for the public to try to recreate on my end. So what you'll find over there is a lot of Americanized, like I have a venison queso for a game day dip over there that is absolutely killer. But yeah, it uses a pound of Velveeta, But guess what? I don't care. I'm gonna eat it. It's delicious. So
Yeah. Just don't eat it every day.
Yeah,
be
moderation.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
I live by the 80-20 rule pretty much. If I stay super strict to my, like I do intermittent fasting now. I have protein goals that I try to hit. I have everything scheduled out to a T for me. And 20% of the time, I allow myself to make that bad decision, kind of, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm pretty good at not hitting that 20%. I'm pretty good at keeping it well under that. But
nice.
That is just my general principle to guide myself for moderation for me.
Yeah.
Like, that just and I look at more overall bigger pictures too, not just daily. Like, I can have one bad thing today. I'm like, well, out of 7 days, maybe only 1 or 2 of those, I should have one bad thing,
sure.
Instead of one bad thing, out of every good thing I ate that day type of
right.
So, yep.
Yes. Well, dude, we appreciate you having you on.
Yeah.
Do you want to send us out with a recipe? What have you been cooking on lately? I mean, obviously we can see all your stuff on Harvesting Nature, but if you've got something cool you want to chat about right now, we'd love to hear it.
Yep. So I made this tonight, actually.
Yes.
This is for all you sourdough people out there that have your own starter as well, because I'm starting to experiment with my wife. Hers is like 5 years old now, and I'm finally like, okay, I got to learn more bread stuff because I'm just getting into it more. We overfeed it quite a bit to the point where we have good bit of discard, upwards of 2 to 3 cups of discard, right?
Yeah.
And I use a Hexclad pans. I would recommend either Hexclad or a cast iron. Stainless steel is going to be a little bit harder unless you really know what you're doing with stainless steel, which most people don't. That's why nobody has stainless steel anymore. But preheat it. I put like beef tallow or butter, or pending what I'm doing. I need some sort of fat in there, right? But just pour that discard into that ripping hot pan, right? And spread it all out nice and thin. It takes a bit, to work it all around and get it nice and thin and everything like that. Let it cook, season that top side while it's still raw, flip it over. You just have a sourdough pizza crust in a pan. Yes. Put any topping you want on it, throw it under the broiler for 5 minutes, take it out and cut it on the cutting board, and it's done. And it is absolutely delicious. So tonight, I had some wild turkey from Pennsylvania here that I had shredded up in the crock pot basically, and I was like, all right, that was part of the meal prep for the week, was shredded turkey in the fridge. I had taken that and I had sauteed it with some butter, some seasonings, and a lot of hot sauce, and cooked that down until it was buffalo turkey at this point. And I made a nice blue cheese cream sauce for the base that had blue cheese, smoked provolone, there was some Parmesan, cream cheese. So that pizza crust, it got flipped. It was nice and like crispy and everything. Put the blue cheese cream sauce, put my wild turkey down, shredded cheese on top. Then it got topped with leftover hash browns for breakfast. So it was like wings and fries are always a great thing together with blue cheese dipped on underneath, So that was my version, was a wild turkey buffalo blue cheese pizza tonight. But that sourdough crust has been game-changing for me. And it is super good for your gut health anyway. A lot of people want stuff to use their discard for if they're the kind that have discard. It's just, and it's so easy. I mean, pour it in the pan, spread it around, flip it, put stuff on it, put it in the oven, and you're done.
Seriously.
Right. That's awesome.
And you might need some gut health with all that blue cheese and the buffalo turkey.
Yeah.
Dude, that sounds phenomenal. Like, if only I had those ingredients, I'd go fire up my oven right now. And
dude, I did a ravioli the same way, where I like handmade pasta, did the same buffalo turkey, stuffed the ravioli with that, and a nice hunk of blue cheese. Then I made a blue cheese cream sauce.
Oh my word!
For like to soak them in basically, and that was
what's the drive?
Nice garlic bread.
How long does it take you to drive to Indiana? Can you come cook for us?
Actually, I have family up in Cherville, so it's only like 8 hours for me.
Call when you're on the road. You call us, and we'll set something up.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be driving through here. Oh gosh, what is it? 2 weeks. I'm on my way to Oklahoma. So
nice.
Okay.
I'll be lower Illinois, but actually I'll go through like Terre Haute and stuff. So
all right.
Well, if you're going through Terre Haute, then you're going to go through Indianapolis.
Dude, that is close enough. We'll find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we'll find a restaurant to hit up or something.
We are not going to a restaurant. Yeah. Get serious. After that conversation, come on.
All right, we'll find a place to cook for us.
You can use my kitchen. I'll buy everything we need. Yeah, use my kitchen.
I'm working for one of the owners of Whitetail Properties down there.
That's awesome.
Basically, his freezers are nothing but wild game because the property he has down there he just manages for wild game. Yes. So I have a plethora of dove, like turkey, venison, whatever I want. Like I make backstrap enchiladas. I make dove marsala down there. I've done like dove tinga. I've done so much stuff down there. It's crazy. I love it.
That sounds awesome. If they need a photographer,
you catch me on the way back, you're going to get a really good meal because I'm going to be really into cooking at that point.
Way back through, we're just going to block him.
Hey, have at it, man.
Yeah, yes. Nice. Well, Gunnar, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, definitely looking forward to what you put out there in the future. Definitely give Gunnar a follow. Check out what he's done over at Harvesting Nature. And keep us posted on the website stuff and the cookbook. 100% interested in all of that. I'm assuming we'll follow your socials and you'll talk about all of it there probably first. Yeah. So we'll keep our eyes on you and appreciate our conversation. Thank you so much for hopping on. And
absolutely. We'll guys. Thank you for having me too.
Appreciate you, sir.
Yep.